And certainly the United States not only is a major market and a major source of innovation, but politically a tremendous influence on institutions and on priorities in the rest of the world. Why have we for the last 30 years been spending so much money on trying to eradicate polio, which most countries in the world don't regard as very serious? The United States has an enormous influence on, the priorities that count, the way we try to tackle problems. I think the United States, the general election and the presidential election in November will have a huge influence, depending on what changes, because this administration obviously has further undermined the role of global institutions, the possibilities of multilateralism, whatever scientists may desire and whatever public health officials may desire. It's the politicians who make the running and who are often concerned principally with their own political futures. And obviously the United States has a major influence on all of this, especially on institutions and global priorities, which go far beyond what the pharmaceutical industry can do or can't do.
We can complain about it, Yanis Natsis, but at the end of the day, sitting where we all are is the fault nobody else's but the Europeans for not having a common European health policy.
Well, we will see what happens to that, and if EU governments, national governments, are willing to transfer more competence to Brussels to give the EU a real mandate on health policy making. But I think the recent debate also around access to medicines and the high prices of medicines in Europe, we've seen an unprecedented, fully fledged political debate. The high prices of medicines, I think, will remain a topic, especially post-COVID, especially now that we see that numerous EU member states are suffering economically. Some of them are going to be bankrupt post-COVID. So I think that's where it's important to discuss about a new social contract between the pharmaceutical companies and governments. And yes, the US is important as a market, but Europe is important as well. And I think we need governments realize that they are not passive donors, and European citizens realize that we also fund a big chunk of medical R&D, biomedical R&D, drug development. So whatever we get out of COVID-19 in terms of creating new precedents, we could expand it possibly to other pandemics like cancer, for instance. Or if we manage to change the model, for instance, for this vaccine, if we get to a vaccine, and whenever we get to a vaccine vaccines against COVID-19, why not use the similar model and make the most out of what we managed to change in a model that has shown its limitations. We are talking about the limitations of the current business model. So there are opportunities, even in the midst of this public health emergency. We will see what happens with other topics such as decoupling from China, for instance. We will see what Europeans will do in terms also of boosting the manufacturing capacity. I think all of these questions cannot be answered right now. But there will be some very political discussions coming up our way in the coming weeks and months.